Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. We have people joining us from around the world, so I wanted to make sure that I included everyone. My name is Scott Pittman. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Pinnacle, and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. A little bit about Pinnacle before we get started. We are the global leader when it comes to BIM service providers for the AEC industry. As of right now, we have clients in more than 40 countries and a production team of over 1,400 in our 3 wonderful production facilities. We cover the entire spectrum of BIM construction, starting from design to construction, and also including things like facilities management across the industry verticals. While working on many iconic projects around the world, we have participated in and witnessed many changes in technology over the last 30 years. We'd now like to share some of these things that we have found. Today is day 7 of our 9-day webinar series, Disrupt or Be Eliminated. And I want to thank everybody that's taking the time to be part of these webinars, if this be your first or if you've joined us for all of the others as well. Thank you very much. Today's webinar is about automating construction sites. There's a lot of new technology moving around the construction field, and we're going to share some of that as part of this webinar. A little housekeeping before we do get started. We have muted everyone to help eliminate the background noises. The session should last approximately 1 hour. We're hoping that to have about 15 to 20 minutes for questions at the end. Please, if you have any questions, put them into the question box. We will keep them. And if we do run short on time at the end, we will still answer those questions for you. There we go. Today, the speakers that are part of this webinar, Ken Schaller, which is the International Sales Manager for Trimble. Ken has over 20 years of experience with contractors that help improve layout productivity, accuracy, and efficiency. Ken brings the great knowledge of construction, layout hardware, software use in the MEP industry, concrete industry, and steel industry. Also joining us today is Pankaj Sol. He's a mechanical engineer associated with Pinnacle for the last 14 years, is currently one of our lead production development heads, and manages a team of over 60 people. The presentation today, we want to go over some of the traditional ways versus the automation that's available, areas of automation in construction websites, challenges with automation, and we'll have a conclusion at the end. So some of the traditional methods that we do see, large teams of production staff on the sites, tape measure, string lines, the level, spirit level measurements, the use of theodolite to pinpoint, or the old versions of surveying instruments to locate pinpoints, on-site construction of many components rather than prefab or modularization, which is what we're seeing a lot of these days. Again, some of the limits of the traditional stuff: crowded environments, difficult projects. There's no such thing as a square building anymore. There's so many different angles and layout points that are required that without the use of BIM and the automated tools that we do have, a lot of these would be very difficult to complete. The skill level of our installation teams, it's harder to find good skilled labor with the use of some of these automation tools. We're finding out that it's helping to meet some of these tough schedules and help things move along. Higher construction costs, again, timelines, the shortage of skilled labor. Those are all factors in what we're trying to overcome. This is just a slide kind of showing some of the softwares that are out there that we do use. Again, there's a lot of different ones, but these are just a few samples to to kind of show you where the industry is going. You know, with the Victaulic or Tekla, Bentley, ArchiCAD, MicroStation. There's a ton of different softwares, and they bring a lot to the table. And Ken will be sharing a lot of those with you. And my last slide for now is mobile site coordination, mobile on-site offices. We're seeing these types of tools being used on some large projects. You have a mobile gang box that includes Bluebeam and Navisworks and Freedom, and you have on-site coordination meetings while you're standing there looking at what is actually being installed. You know, big screen printer, it has access to BIM 360, the cloud. So these are some great tools that we're seeing, along with some of the stuff that Ken will share with us. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Ken Schaller, and we'll give him access. So give us just a second.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate that. Okay. Again, thanks, Scott. Thanks, Pankaj, for having me today, and thanks to Pinnacle Info. Today, I'm really going to just talk a little bit about automation and construction, and I'm going to start with something that I know quite a little bit about because I've been doing it for a long time, and it's really automating through the use of robotic total stations to do layout. And I'll set this. I have a little video here, and I hope it plays well enough for everybody to view it. It's a company called Pitt Meadows, and what I love about this video is that they're talking about using a lot of different technology, and not only how it benefits them, but also really how it benefits other people involved in the project, and especially the owner. So I'll play this video now, and then what I'd like to do is at the end, I'll just recap some of the takeaways that I got out of it. Hopefully this plays well, so I'll start off and hit the play button right now.
Doesn't look like we have any audio with this, so we'll play the video and then have Ken give us some insight.
Yeah, we don't, do we? It's a shame. So this is the owner of the company, Matthew Robinson. And what he's talking about right now is he's talking about transitioning tape to tech. They've been in the business for about 40 years. And he's been with the company for about 20 years. And you see some of the projects that they've worked on throughout their history. This is Matt Main. He's the designer. And what he's talking about here is being able to do all the prefabrication using Revit and a product called Siskiyou. And what he's really emphasizing there is the ability to actually get the right fittings and everything automatically from the software, so that they can go out and do the prefab and then just set it into place. Siskiyou is a Trimble product, but it runs on top of Revit, and it's widely used in the MEP industry in the United States. We don't necessarily market it outside the U.S., but in the U.S. it's used pretty widely. What they're talking about now is all the sleeves that have to be laid out, and using the drawings directly to create the piping for the project, and how everything was laid out per the constructible model. At this point, they're talking about how much time was saved, how easy it is to use. This is a product called Trimble HoloLens. You may have heard of it. What it enables people to do is visualize the project with the 3D design overlaid into the physical world. Very helpful in understanding what's going to be happening on the project. There's our collaboration software called Trimble Connect. and that's it. This video can be found on YouTube. It's called Pit Meadows, and called Transitioning from Tape to Tech. So let me just recap this right quick. So the emphasis, the takeaway points from this video is that there's a significant time savings in doing layout with robotic over traditional manual methods. Because they were using the robotic, they were miles ahead of the other trades that weren't using it. And this is pretty common in life, is that they got their first robotic tilt station on a project, and all the other PMs in the company start looking at how they were benefiting from using this instrument and going to tech instead of tape. And so they all wanted one. So within 12 months, the entire company had switched to robotic total stations. They use a combination of Revit and Siskiyou for prefab, but also to create the points for layout. So what you do is you end up prepping the points or creating the points in the office from the actual design files, and then sending that directly out to the instrument. And you can do that with cloud, the cloud-based software that we have called Connect. The key thing is that everything was laid out and installed per the coordinated drawings, and that's key. They use a HoloLens to kind of get people up to speed on what the building's going to look like as they walk through the building, as far as what the new design is going to be overlaid on top of the space that they're currently in. So that helps people visualize how the job is going to look like at the end. And finally, they said that the client really appreciates what the contractor can do for them, because in the end, I mean, it's all about the client, right? So I think it's a great case where a customer, or a contractor rather, is using multiple technologies and using that in a workflow that really benefits a lot of stakeholders on a particular project. So let me go to the next slide. So one of the things that I want to talk about quickly is manual methods. So Scott already talked about some of the limitations of traditional construction. Let me address things just from a pure robotic layout perspective. As we know, layout's a critical aspect of the construction process. That's where a lot of the tasks.
Ken?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. You may want to keep your microphone closer to your mouth.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Probably becoming a little bit too animated because I'm used to standing up and doing these presentations. How's that? Is that better?
Yes.
So, thank you for telling me that. So, I think the most unfortunate part about manual methods is that they're relying entirely on paper drawings that are used in the field. And you're flipping through so many drawings, it's hard to remember where you started and where you're ending. So the best method is, of course, using a digital method, and we'll talk about that here on the next slide. But when you're using paper drawings in the field, there's a tremendous risk to that. First of all, that you can be working with outdated drawings or an old revision. And I've been on jobs many times where we were in the process of doing layout, and then someone says, "Oh, this doesn't make sense." And the reason why is because they've got an older drawing that's underneath their arm, and we're trying to work from that. So it's key to have the latest revision, and when it's digital, it helps remove that aspect of it. The second thing that I think is very important that a manual method doesn't give you is that there's no audit trail when you do a manual layout. So you can lay out a point anywhere on the project, but the only person that knows where that point's going to be is the person that's following you, or the company that's following you, or the trade that's following you, because they're going to get there and then you're going to notice that something's installed in the wrong location perhaps. So what we like to do is we like to talk about doing a round trip with our software. So that, what we mean by that is that we're taking points out of Revit, and putting them into our system, laying out those points, and then bringing those points directly back into the Revit model so that everyone can see how those points are lining up with the intended points that were supposed to be laid out. And that's very important, so you can find out if you have a mistake before you start installing things. I'm going to advance to the next slide. Talk about digital. Have a little delay there. I'm going to talk a little bit about digital. So again, in the digital world, the information is and what we want to do is we want to say it's a constructible model, right? So it's designed so just as it's going to be constructed. For layout, what we like to use is we like to use either a robotic total station or GPS or GNSS. And the way that works is that we take the digital file, we bring it onto a tablet that's used in the field, and the instrument is actually helping us guide us to the points that we want to lay out. So not only is it more easier to use, but it's more accurate too. I mean, if you're using a robotic total station or any high precision instrument, you're probably going to get accuracy to right around 2 millimeters. And that accuracy is not going to be like a tape measure. So if you and I were pulling a tape measure, we were pulling a tape measure 25 foot, it's probably going to be pretty accurate, maybe within a 16th or an 8th. And as an exercise, you can always have 2 people pull a tape and see if they come up with the same answer, because a lot of times they won't. But a total station is going to be consistent. And it's going to be precise. And what I mean by precise, it's going to be repeatable. And it's going to be able to give you accurate measurements across an entire distance. So those are all the things that digital method brings when you use it for doing layout. So you're going to be more efficient, you're going to reduce errors, and you're going to have more transparency to the people that are in the office looking at the files, making sure everything is done right. Let me advance to the next slide here. So let's talk about advantages of automation in the construction side in general. So one of the things is that we talk about collaboration, which is really important in today's world. We can do it through software today, but 20 years ago, the technology was not able to bring us all together. So that's a great change, and technology has finally caught up with us. In my world, in collaboration, what we're talking about is collaborating with other trades if you're the general contractor, so that they can give you their documents and we can aggregate those drawings together. And so if I'm a GC, I can go out there and do QA, QC of some points that the trades are going to lay out. And then also too is that when we automate, we have accuracy and quality. We reduce the amount of human error that's involved.
Oh, Ken, it looks like you got muted there.
Yeah, I got muted there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Did you hear the automation in the construction site portion?
Yes.
Good. So, of course, that brings productivity and time savings, any use of robotic, cost reduction, and then, of course, last but not least, but very important is the safety on the particular project. They shut down a project. It can cause liability issues and things of that nature. So automation on construction sites today is becoming the norm and not the outlier. So let's advance to the next slide. Collaboration. So, as I said, getting everybody on the same page is really critical to getting the project completed on time and actually delivering a project that is true to the design intent. So today, the stakeholders are likely going to be across many different trades and across a lot of different geographies. I mean, this is an example of of being in different geographies. I think Pankaj is in India, and Scott, I believe you're in Houston area, I think, and I'm in Dayton, Ohio. So actually, it's probably easier on a cloud-based platform than it is on these WebExes, because you're actually just transferring files, and then everybody, if we're working on a project, of course I send a project change, and then I mark that Scott needs to get an update on that revision. So all of those things contribute to everybody being on the same page. And the other thing is that you can work within a single file format from both ends of it. And in today's world, that's really important, because there's so many companies that use so many different applications now. It can be based on the functionality of the application. Sometimes it's regional. In Europe, they use a really kind of a different software than they may use in Asia or the US. And then some people just have a lot of different hammers in their tool chest, so to speak, right? A different, they got a hammer for this application, a hammer for that application. So there's a lot of crossover. So being able to share one file that's compatible across all the stakeholders, it's huge. And I think that we've come a long way. I know for me, I end up using a lot of IFC and DWG. So let's talk a little bit about a systematic way of collaboration that we use Trimble. We use Trimble Connect, I guess, for those Autodesk users, similar to Autodesk 360.
Ken,
You're fading out there again a little bit. I can hear you, but it's getting real faint.
How about now? Can you hear me?
That's better.
Okay. So what we talk about is creating an ecosystem of collaboration. And so Trimble Connect is agnostic, meaning that we want to be able to connect every user no matter what software that they're using. We have 3 different types of platforms. We have desktop, we have web, we have mobile. And if you look at the graph on the lower left, it kind of shows a good example of all the stakeholders that are on a particular project or that are involved in a project. And then you have a line down the middle, which is what we call the single source of truth, meaning that at the beginning of the project, people view the project a little differently. As you go through the project, you share information, things start coming together. And at the end of the project, everybody literally should understand what it's going to look like, and when it's going to be completed, and how it's going to be constructed. So it's important, again, to be able to collaborate and to have tools that allow you to do that easily. So let me just touch upon process automation and how it relates to cost optimization. So this is a great graph. I had not seen this graph. And what it shows is over the last 50 years, the increase in manufacturing labor. And if you look at a similar graph to construction, actually construction is higher than manufacturing labor. But all the same, labor is increasing. The cost of labor is increasing everywhere. Even if you look at the bottom of the chart in China. I have been to China 50 times now or more, and I started in the late, or I think in the mid 2000s, I believe was my first trip. And they didn't have a labor shortage, but they didn't necessarily value the robotic as much because they had so much labor. But just like North America, when you're paying labor rates that you see in the chart in Germany and other developed countries, you see that it can be quite costly. So if you can offload some of those laborious tasks to a robot, that's a win. And when you see that the cost of a robot in the a small robot in the heavy green line starts to, I guess, intersect the cost in North America and in Germany in the 1980s and 1980s. And if you remember, in the 80s, Japan started manufacturing a lot of automobiles using robotics. And as a reference, in 1994, we introduced our first robotic total station. So it's very easy to cost justify robotics, but you just need to understand what the business case is, and that investment will be paid off very quickly and many times over when you're utilizing that technology. So productivity is a key aspect of construction. And this is an example here at the very bottom. You see this chart. This is a brick lane experiment and man versus robot. You've probably seen this in some of the publications that you may read or on the internet. But in this case, in 2016, they did a test and they were able to produce 12.5 square meters per hour using a robot to lay bricks. The equivalent production for human would be 3.4 square meters per hour, right? Now, of course, there are some challenges using robots for everything, but of course, technology and the applications are starting to come together. When I think that in very short order, you're going to see more robotics on construction site, and that's due a lot to the cost, but also to the lack of labor. In many countries, the construction labor is aging, and there's been just a shortage of having new, younger people come into the industry. So it's a challenge. So I think that challenge will be met through a lot of automation in the future. And if you think about it, if you have kind of easy to do, kind of brainless type of laborious work, automation makes sense. And it even makes sense from a safety perspective. Because as we know, safety is so critical today on a construction site. So the last thing you want somebody to get sick. You know, we have the coronavirus that everybody is watching. So now there's a lot of gateways on construction sites, taking temperatures of people, making sure they have good social distancing, and also tracking people on the site. We have a product called CrewSite that we do that. We know where people are, and you know, if there's an emergency or somebody has an accident, we know who to call, who the person is that we should contact, their significant other, etc. And also too is that, you know, if they're allergic to any type of, so anyways, it's all about safety planning. And if you can go in and you can use a robot to do that, I think not only does it improve the safety, but it plays a key role in decreasing the accidents. So I'm sorry for any of the technical difficulties. I apologize for that, but I hope you got a little of the gist of what I was trying to discuss here, and I hope that you become a convert for automation. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Pankaj, and he'll take us home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken, for your nice presentation. Let me take it forward and start my presentation with the automation process summary. So we can streamline entire construction process from virtual to actual with the help of automation process. The process summary can be segregated into 4 phases. First phase, communication among stakeholders. So ecosystem of collaboration can help owners, architects, general contractors, engineers, subcontractors, and all other stakeholders to be on same page. Communication with the help of collaboration platform like BIM 360, Trimble Connects helps to improve communication and process workflow within stakeholders at virtual stage of construction. The second phase, CAD to BIM coordination sign-off process. There are some other tools like Revit, CAD fabrication, Syscue, Dynamo, Trimble fill points, which help us in coordination process while doing building information modeling. Coordination sign-off is a process where we try to identify and resolve potential constructability, coordination, and design issues as much as possible prior to move in the next phase of construction, that's fabrication and installation. Third phase can be briefed as positioning the control points. With the help of coordinated model, we can extract fill points referring with the control points that the buildings will be built off. We can import the points in robotic total station for automation layout in field. And the fourth and last phase, marking and installing the necessary points in the field. These field points helps to take accurate measurements, and with the help of minimal workforce, we can mark and install surfaces inside. So this process of automation is much faster than traditional layout, help contractors to remain within the budget and schedule, and the layouts are more precise and accurate, which reduce the rework and improve quality. Prior to moving to the next slide, a question I have heard many times that why would we need a robotic total station if we have tape measures? We have been building without BIM for last 50 years. Most workers are on job site, know how to use a tape measures, string line, pump box or levels. But what many of them don't realize if that the tape measures give incorrect or false measurement. Let me go to the next slide. Areas of automation. Nowadays, automation can be found in several areas in construction industry. On today's presentation, I would like to focus on 6 areas, and those are foundation layout, brick laying, wall layout, hanger and insert, sleeve, field installation. Automation in foundation layout. Everything that gets built on your house will be based on the foundation layout. So, to more precise, we first need to know about the foundation. We can say a foundation is the element of structure which connects it to the ground, transfer loads from the structure to the ground, and to make this foundation perfect, we need a perfect foundation layout. Now, the foundation layout can be done on both manual and automation processes. Let's talk about those processes. Manual process. Manual process involves making the corners of the buildings, lengths of the sides are checked by diagonal measurements, the axial lines of the trenches are marked with the help of profiles, straight rails and strings. The offsets are measured from axial lines and the frontage lines are placed in the correct positions. The cross wall positioning is performed by measuring along with the main walls and squared from the walls as required. The total width of a trench must be carefully outlined during this process, whereas the automation process involves just 2 to 3 steps, like creating a new thimble fill points, transfer the input file or data to a robotic total station, refer from a predefined control points to locate the fill points, marking the location. The tool requires only one person to operate. It relies on a tripod mounted head unit you can see in the picture that uses radio signals to track a handheld computer equipped marking rod. Layout data or CAD drawings downloaded to the computer are referenced and selected on the tool's screen. The computer applies the necessary geometry to locate the rod precisely on point. Surprisingly, when these two methods have been compared, we can see that the traditional process takes 384 hours and the automated process requires only 32 hours for a 100,000 square feet area coverage to complete the foundation layout. Moving to the next one, brick laying. Automated brick laying machine includes a conveyor belt, mobile robotic arm, and concrete pump capable of being a program to change brick pattern and layout. It is accompanied by a data tracking technology that track daily performances report on productivity and job issues, allowing the machine to modify and improve construction strategies. Thus, rather than replacing the machine, it aims to help them to increase productivity and decrease labor cost. The benefits: when we compare, a semi-automated machine can work 4 to 8 times than a human per day with a greater accuracy and less risk factors. Survey says a semi-automated machine can lay 2000 bricks per day, whereas a human can lay only 400 bricks per day. Wall layout. We know that an interior drywall contractor faces many challenges and complexity regarding scheduling, trade conflicts, and layout accuracy. They need better tools and technologies that provide a quicker method of laying than tape measures. With a robotic total station, we are now able to create points directly in 3D model and 2D drawings, wirelessly transmit them to robotic total station for setting out, and then take as-built records of themselves measurements back into the model. So manual process involves tape measurements, marking manually with the help of chalks or strings, whereas automation process, two lasers creates a bright visible X directly on the points for easy, quick marking. These lasers are controlled by the mobile application running on the Android tablet and stores the point files. When a point is selected, the laser positions X at the point within less than 5 seconds. On the job site, there are many potential causes of errors. The QML 800 laser accuracy is typically 1/8 inch, easily meet the most job site requirement. Misreading drawings and tape measures reading errors are eliminated because each point is laid out independently Compounding errors from one bad point to another is also eliminated. Complicated shapes, arcs, and curves are now easy to lay out. Multiple methods of simple points are possible, including CAD, Excel, spreadsheet, and manual entries. Points can also be entered directly on the table at the job site as needed. Survey says that the traditional process takes 256 hours and the automation process requires only 28 hours for a 100,000 square feet area in one layout. Hanger and inserts. Hanger is designed based on the load factors, which includes the weight of the pipe or duct materials, the content that pipes carries, all the pipe fittings attached to the pipe, and the pipe covering such as insulation. Also, it's designed in such a way to transfer the load from pipe or duct to the supporting structure. Based on the design, hanger rod diameter and inserts will be selected. Inserts are used on wood form poured deck and installed prior to pouring concrete to reduce installation cost, material cost, and to increase the strength value of structure. Manual process involves tape measurements for marking the inserts, putting the inserts physically in place, which will take long time to get that done. Whereas automation process, same as like other, creating a new timber fill points, transfer the data to robotic total station, reference from the predefined control point to locate the fill points, and the marking the locations and putting the inserts on the same time. Per our experience, we saw that in CAD, to prepare a drawing of 100 hangers and inserts, including all the information, it requires 30 minutes, whereas with the help of automation, to create timber fill points of same number of hangers or inserts, it requires only 8 minutes. In construction site, 200 hangers or insert points can be marked in 48 hours in traditional way, whereas in automation, it requires only 4 hours to mark the same number of insert locations. Sleeve layout. Likewise, accurate sleeve drawings are critical, making sure that the holes left between the walls or slab are sized and positioned correctly for piping and ductwork installation. The quality of sleeve drawings detects how smooth the rest of your MEP installation goes. Mistakes leading to block drilling and block cutting introduce cost that can triple the project budget. Flaws in the blockouts or sleeve drawings can keep the job site at a standstill for days. Cutting concrete comes with a series of health and safety risks, for which organizations like OSHA requires oversight and strict protocol. Now, to prepare the drawing of 100 sleeve points, including all the information, again it's required same as like insert points, 30 minutes, whereas the automation process, it requires only 8 minutes to extract a timber fill points of 100 sleeves. In construction site, 200 sleeve points can be marked in 32 hours with a traditional way, whereas in automation requires only 4 hours to mark the sleeve on the same numbers. Field installation. Placing the component of building services in position has traditionally involved a team of workers who refer the building drawings. They use tape measures, sprit level, theodolite to pinpoint locations for pipe work, cable trays, and other MEP components. Complications arise when dealing with complex structure, those that involve curved walls, prefabricated materials and components, and non-traditional spaces. Errors resulted from mistakes in identifying the right reference point, ensuring that the tape measure is stationary, keeping the theodolite level, ensuring the precision of angle measures. Using the robotic total station, only one person is needed to complete a surface layout rather than the traditional team of workforces. A tablet with the right software can be loaded with MEP 2D drafting or 3D building models. This controls the robotic total stations. The models helps to identify site survey point, which then locates the robotic total station on site and on the model. Advanced robotic total stations features including visual layout, enabling a laser to mark the points, so stake no need to be used. This is useful in the precise positioning of several threads simultaneously, resulting in minimal delays on site. So my last slide of the presentation, it's a benefits. So minimal rework with increased QA/QC, documentation and recording, increased on-site efficiency, labor cost reduction, and minimal MEP components location errors. So thank you, Scott. You can take it forward from here.
Okay. Thank you, Pankaj, and thanks, Ken. Ooh. All right. So with the everything that Ken and Pankaj were able to share with us, there are challenges, and what we want to do here is also show some of the challenges that we have seen, or some of the clients that we have worked with explain as well. Obviously this automation doesn't come free. There is a cost. And the big thing is looking at what the ROI is, and what type of projects are you going to be working on. Does it make sense to automate certain projects? In most cases, we find yes, it does. But the areas that we find, like where the cost was shown, the savings in CAD and the documentation creation, we still have field members that want those dimensions put on the documents, even though they don't ever use them. So it's just it's a learning curve. It's getting your field to understand how to use the automation and to trust the automation side of things. The success I've had in the past is you go out and you find that most stubborn guy that you have in the field, and you get him to become a believer. Use it on his project. Let him see how the automation side of things works. And then it's much easier to bring the rest of the team on board. Once they see him acknowledging and taking this type of construction forward, it's a great way to move forward with it. Let's see. There we go. And then for the conclusion, the end goal is not just to automate tasks that humans are doing, but it's to develop new construction manufacturing methods that are only possible throughout robotics. The tool of the bricklaying machine is amazing. I've actually seen that tool being used at the World of Concrete events. So when you actually see some of these robotic tools being used, it's just amazing on how beneficial and how much input they can provide. The total station, the layout tools, it's, again, from the strings and tape measure days to the laser pointers and tools that we have available, it's just amazing. So with that being said, it looks like we're getting some pretty good questions coming in, and I believe Mr. Bimal Patwari will lead us with the some of the questions that's been asked from the audience. And again, if you have more questions, please feel free to write them in our question box. And if we don't get to all of them, we will definitely give you a response back.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, like every seminar, we have a lot of questions, and many of the questions are on the costs. What would be the cost of automating a construction site? What would be the percentage of cost to be allotted for automation? Ken, I think you would be the best person to answer that. And I know there are various aspects of automation we talked about. So can you share some ballpark figures for any company, that what kind of budget they should have for automation?
Well, you're right. That's a hard question to answer. I can just give general. So to automate from the layout side, a robotic total station with everything that you need, a kit, starts at around $20,000 and tops out at around $40,000. And so what we do is we generally show the customer, how the return on investment can be made for that. As a percentage of the company's revenue, it's difficult to say, right? It's a small percentage with that aspect. Automation with collaboration software, as you know, is relatively inexpensive. Mixed reality products that we sell are $5,000 per headset, and software, as you know, it ranges. I mean, in today's SaaS environment, it's typically a monthly charge, and it's several $1,000s for full BIM enabled software. So I hope that answers the question. It's hard to be specific on that one.
So Ken, that data was very helpful. It gives you some idea about the cost that, for layout and for, as you said, AR and VR sets, what kind of costs are there. But I believe, Ken, what do you think are the real challenges for a company to transition to automation? Is it just the cost of the hardware, or it's the genetic change that is required in the company DNA, or is the training, or is the good trained people to find? What do you think are the real challenges that you've seen in your career?
Well, I would say that one of them is just resistance to change, right? I think that's pretty normal in people. And, a lot of older people that are doing it today, they don't want to have to complicate their lives by learning new things necessarily. However, in saying that, I would say that we have a very strong majority of people in the United States that are involved in MEP, particularly mechanical and electrical, and I guess all of them, but they're using robotics on a pretty regular basis. We have some companies that have only one, because they only have one project manager that has somebody on site, and we have companies that might have up to 8 to 10 to even 20 some units of these robotics. If you go into other countries like China, I would say the uptake is not as good, because they have inexpensive labor, and it's difficult. And in other countries, it's just awareness, to be honest with you, in many cases.
Thanks, Ken. Now, Scott, you come from a great background where you have seen the company transition from one technology to another. So can you share your experiences, that how your previous company implemented that, and what are the challenges you faced, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, and it's, much like Ken was saying, it's getting that older tradesmen, getting them to change was very difficult. When we first started using layout tools. We had an old Sokia layout tool that basically sat in a gang box in our CAD department for years. Never even used it. Once we finally got into using the total station, it was more. It was easier to use. We had a team that was interested in seeing how to utilize it on their project. And so we focused a lot on that. And when I left the company, we actually had 5 total stations and 5 complete different crews that went around to do layout or to gather point information. Because once you build that atmosphere, and we were very lucky to have an upper management that was very into technology. They wanted the next best thing. They didn't want to just continue using their tape measures and their string lines and things like that. They've kind of pushed our production team to utilize some of the new tools that were out in the industry, which was great for us. So we were able to always continually improve and have the next best thing. And so it's always, again, you have to get that buy-in to start with. Scanners. Scanners are another thing that are very popular right now with a lot of mechanical contractors or general contractors, especially the ones that are doing a lot of remodel work. It was something back in the day that we didn't use a lot. Again, we go out, we use it on one project, and it becomes very successful. It's much easier to promote throughout the company at that point.
Sometimes, just to add on to that, I agree with you 100%. It always starts really from the top because they need to be competitive with other contractors that are in their area. But also, the other interesting thing is a lot of people may get awarded a job and it just is so complicated, or there's so much work on layout that they actually are kind of forced to try something, right, Scott? Right, Scott? I mean, if you get a job and you got 1,000 layout points on a deck, it can be pretty hard to keep up.
Yeah, and we're seeing it more and more being part of the contract up front. Number one, you have to have BIM capabilities. Number 2, you have to be able to have a total station team that can do layout. Asked the mechanical firm that I work with, since we did have the total station capabilities, a lot of times we were doing the layout for the electrician or the fire sprinkler guy because they didn't have the capabilities, but it was a way that we actually were able to make more money because we were doing the layout for them, because without that capability they wouldn't be able to be part of that project. So we're seeing it again being written into a lot of contracts. BIM capabilities, total station capabilities, Navisworks, clash detection. Those are all tools now that are being mandated on a lot of projects.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Ken. Pankaj, I'd like to know from you that you have been, Pinnacle has been helping a lot of clients in adopting technology. How challenging is the software today? How easy it is to use and to transfer the data to the machines from the models? Can you throw some light on that, please?
Yes, earlier days when we started the BIM building information modeling, we used to have AutoCAD, the CAD pipe software, but nowadays we have several add-ins and tools available with us. Like the Revit is a parametric tool, and with the help of SysQ add-ins, we can create a model, manufacturer recommended model. Like if it is made from the Charlotte or Tyler, we can easily use those components with the help of Revit fabrication or maybe with the help of SysQ. And when we move to the next phase of the construction, like if we need the timber fill points, we can directly extract the fill points with the help of this parametric software. So yes, I think the tool what we have available right now is really helping us in the virtual stage of project, like the building information modeling, and at the same time in the construction, we can use the same 3D model to move in the next phase of the construction, like the fabrication and the installation part as well.
Thanks, Pankaj. Yeah, definitely softwares are becoming more powerful, and and it really helps to speed up things, and it's making much more easier to use in the field, and especially the interfaces, as you explained, are much better today, and the softwares can export files for different type of devices and instruments, and they talk on the same page, so that makes life easier. Now, Ken, you talked about the various advantages, and Scott, you also talked about, so which are the lowest hanging fruits? Is it just the cost which is the motivating factor, or it's the time, it's the quality, it's the accuracy of your work? What is the lowest hanging fruit that you see from the automation?
I have to say all the above. Scott, you have practical experience. Why don't you comment on that? When you the contractor working in that environment, what did you want to get out of it?
And I think the lowest hanging fruit is the production rates. Like Pankaj had shared with, we were lucky. We were able to, you're going out and laying out over, 400 points in a 6-hour shift, compared to, you're lucky if you got 100 when you're out there with a tape measure and a string. And the speed of these projects that we see these days and meeting schedules, you have to be able to support that and be able to get the staff what they need as soon as possible. So, when you're seeing, 2,000 points rather than 400 points, that's a huge amount. So it's the capabilities and that was the lowest hanging fruit for us, was just the and then the accuracy. The accuracy came in. Actually, we were looking more at manpower and time saving was the number one. But then you get to the accuracy. You're able to go back and review documents if there's a change order later, or if something comes up, you always have that ability to go and backtrack yourself as well.
Agree.
Luckily, we have Steve Barnell from IV Mechanical on the audience today, and he is one of the pioneers in automating. And I would really appreciate, Steve, if you could share some of your experiences, that what motivated your company to, how has been your experience, what were the benefits that you are seeking for, and what are the challenges you faced in automating your IV Mechanical. Steve, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yep, there he is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I had to figure out how to unmute this thing. We've come a long way. One of the reasons when we really got neck deep into doing the layout and coordinating the fabrication, the obvious next step for us was try to take some of the things that we've learned in the coordination and the BIMing of our product out into the field. And it was very obvious that with using the Trimble layout stations that we could utilize that information in a much more productive way. And it's not while it's not appropriate for every job, the projects that we do use it on, it's pretty powerful. Whether in the accuracy is I think is the thing that really comes to the forefront, is when you lay out your material, lay out the hangers, lay out the sleeves, it matches what you coordinated, it matches the BIM model that you created, and it's just a powerful tool, and we use it every opportunity we can. And obviously, the people always say, well, it costs too much, it takes time to set it up. Usually those are just excuses, and once you get a team involved in using it and get them trained, they take and run with it. And And it's once the guys get used to using it, they can lay out a lot of points. It's very, very productive, increases productivity and accuracy.
Thanks, Steve. I have visited your fab shop and I've seen the wonderful jobs that you do, and it was really nice to hear your experiences. In fact, I went to his shop 5 years back, and it's amazing the kind of automation Steve has brought to his company. Great. We have many speakers already. We have crossed the time, but I would still like, if anybody would like to share their experiences, because it's a very interactive, we all want to learn from each other's experience. So you can raise your hand. I can see a lot of our friends are there. Matt Wyckoff. Matt, would you like to speak? I know you are doing some great jobs, or anybody wants to speak and raise their hand, and we'll be very happy to unmute you and hear from you. Or John Poholf. Anyway, I think we have crossed the time. Thank you very much, all of you, for sharing your experiences. I really appreciate Ken for taking your time out from your busy schedule and sharing so much of information. You have been very nice and kind to participate in the preparation for this seminar. Scott, thanks for moderating it. Pankaj, very nice and hard work. Prachi and the team, they have done a wonderful job in organizing this webinar. And I'd like to thank all our audience who have been so nice, patient, and they have participated. I know we have not been able to answer all the questions, but we'll be very happy to answer directly to you through your emails. And please don't hesitate. If you have any questions, please write to us, and we'll be very happy to share with you some case studies, success stories, or any data that you want to know. Thank you, stay safe, and have a nice day. Bye.